What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Global Gaming Network channel, where we get the privilege and opportunity to go over everything to do with esports across the entirety of the globe. What's going on with the CDL now post-Texas for Major 2. Tons of League of Legends action and Valorant action as well. Riot Esports are kicking off, as well as the Blast Premier Open season is going on for Counter-Strike. Plenty all to dive into, all of that and more. This is Today in Esports. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Today in Esports. Again, my name is Andy. Joined with me, as always, is Chris. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. We have a little bit of a lighter week, but we still have things to cover, so let's go ahead and get started on Call of Duty. Call of Duty Major 3 qualifiers aren't set to start for another week, so we'll be breaking down those first week of matches early next week as the storylines develop further post-Major 2, and there are a lot of storylines. Andy?
Yeah, in Texas, Atlanta FaZe came out on top of the competition with their biggest test being the Map 5 Round 11 win versus Vancouver in Winners Finals. It's clear FaZe are the best team in the game, as the flame for the Thieves fizzled out in their tournaments as it progressed. To see them lose the Breach in the opening round not only ruined pick'em brackets, but it just wasn't supposed to happen. Losing to Toronto, I can understand, but in an 0-3 way that they did, what happened to the LA Thieves? They'll have to respond to that in kind come next week for week 1 of qualifiers for Major 3, as their first match will be on the last of the weekend versus the Vancouver Surge. Optic is back again under the spotlight as they have dropped Pred again and have brought back in Hook. We haven't seen Hook play with Skies outside of 8s, and it's a breath of fresh air. The last time Hook was on Optic, they were the #1 seed going into Madrid Major 1. Could this be another step in the direction for Optic to guarantee champs, let alone a solid run at Major 3? Or is just another desperate play to grasp onto a more than a single qualifier series win? Optic have 2 qualifier matches in the opening week, one versus Minnesota, who might be making an AR change, and Cloud9 New York, who might be making an SMG change. And speaking of Blue Clouds, what does this mean for Pred? You'd imagine following his top stat performance at Major 2 for the Green Wall, he lands somewhere, perhaps Cloud9 New York. Pred has experience and a major winning experience with Civ back when they played on the Surge together. I don't know, it's food for thought. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let's start this discussion together. Super is in now for Lucky. It was just a matter of time. You really gotta think. Super, a top EU performer through a multitude of challengers, elites. Lucky, underperforming in the major. Makes sense in my books. There are plenty of roster movements happening, and announcements for sure are going to happen even after this episode airs. But we'll cover that through all of our shows here on GGN and go over more this Thursday. Plenty of teams can make changes and candidly need to. As the standing suggests, you want to be above the top 8 in total CDL points to qualify for champs. A lot of these teams that are below the top 8 and on the bubble to miss out on champs are, bar none, without a doubt, under the scope and need to make those changes. Changes to the comp map pool are also coming in. Rewind and Dealership Search and Destroy are in, while Skyline and Vault Search and Destroy are out. How do you feel about these map picks? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all we pretty much got for Call of Duty going in towards this upcoming weekend. Lighter per usual as we prepare for Major 3 qualifiers that are starting next weekend. But you want to tune back in here on the Global Gaming Network channel for all of our shows as we go over all the roster changes that are happening across the weekend. And here for Today in Esports, we'll be covering all of that on Monday. But that's all for COD. Chris, what the hell's going on in the league, man?
Well, Split 2 is upon us, and the road to MSI as well. We have a lot of stuff to go over, but most importantly, LEC will be kicking off. So we'll go over some of those matches, and then we'll talk a little bit about NA and what is going on there. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. On March 29th, Saturday, we will have the first game starting for Split 2 of LEC. We'll have Fnatic versus GX, TH versus RGE, and then G2 versus MKOI to round out the day. On Sunday, March 30th, we will have Vitality versus GX, MKOI versus KC, and then on that Monday, we will also have BDS versus RGE and Fnatic versus SK. So let us know who you are most excited to see, because we do have the returning second place first stand team, Carmine Corp, will be playing against MCoy, so it'll be good to see that. Of course, we'll have G2, who a lot of people have faith going into the split 2 as being one of those top teams facing off again. And then, of course, Fnatic versus SK and Fnatic versus GX, who is another team that a lot of people will be looking out in the LEC going forward for the split 2. Again, remember that the winners of the split 2 will have EWC spots as well as MSI spots on the line. So a lot to play for now. LTA will be beginning on April 5th, so make sure you join in next week so as we go over some of those matches for both the North and the South and what's on the line for those teams as well. And some other news, we did have the NACL, which is the Challenger League for North America, taking off. NWS team near Airport, who decided to stream all their scrims as well as their NACL games, have played their first match versus Luminosity Gaming yesterday. They did lose 1-2 versus Luminosity Gaming, but do remember that is former Shopify Rebellion, so it was a tough chore for them. But they did bring in about 22,000 unique viewers across the 5 streams, and actually including a 6th stream, which they did have Croissant, their coach, was streaming as well. So they did bring a lot of viewers into that, comparative to about the 4.5K that was brought on from the NACL mainstream. So a lot of viewers being taken into there. Let us know if you watched that match and what you think about it, and if you do think this is good for the scene. And that is all we have for League of Legends today. Make sure you join us next week for a run over some of those matches and what we're going to take a look at for LTA. But now let's take a switch over to Riot's other game. VCT has begun, so let's take a look at some of those.
Yep, as Chris said, the other Riot title is kicking right on off, and a couple of other regions have already started off with week 1 worth of matches. Some are getting into week 3. EMEA is starting off with week 1. All of that is continuing on this upcoming weekend, so we got a lot to get over. Let's start off with the EMEA.
The first set of VCT EMEA matches actually did begin yesterday on March 26th. So first we're going to take a look at Vitality versus GX. To kick it off, we did have the team who saw the 4th place at Masters Bangkok take on Giant X here. Taking a look, map 1 on split was Vitality's pick, and they did decide to start on offense. The game would start off pretty one-sided for Vitality as they were able to take 5 straight round wins before Giant X would find their first wins in rounds 6 and 7. Vitality would continue to dominate the first half, only dropping one more round in round 10. But in round 11, Kicks would get an ace that would help them secure rounds 11 and 12 going into the half, giving them a 9-3 advantage before swapping sides. On offense, though, Giant X would start the half with 3 straight round wins before Vitality was able to stop their winning spree in round 16. Giant X looked much better, winning 6 total rounds and on offense, but it didn't matter too much as Vitality would get the 4 rounds they needed to win on defense to secure map number 1, 13-9. CF would lead the map with a 21, 13, and 4 KDA and a 182.2 ADR on the Tejo. Looking at map number 2, Giant X's pick, and Giant X would start on defense. Map number 2 was similar to map number 1 with Vitality winning the first 5 rounds. Giant X was able to find a win on round 6, but this time Vitality would win another 5 straight before Giant X was able to answer back on round number 12 before swapping sides, leading Vitality to have a 10-2 round lead going into the half. Vitality would then win the next 3 rounds they would need to secure on defense to dominate the win over Giant X 13-2 and giving them a 2-0 series win to start this stage. Siva would lead the map with a 23, 8, and 7 KDA and a 239.7 ADR on Omen and would end the series 41, 20, and 18 and have an average 178.9 average ADR across both maps and played Omen on both. In the second series of the day, we had BBL versus KC. BBL would win the series 2-1 after losing 13-3 to KC on the Icebox, which was their pick. BBL would then win a close 13-11 map 2 on purple, led by Lewin, who went 20, 15, and 4 with an average 156.8 ADR on the Yoru. On the decider map Fracture, BBL would win 13-8, led by Profac on the Astra, who had a 19, 15, and 16 KDA and a 135.8 ADR. And the player of the series would be Lewin, who went 50, 45, and 11 and had a 155.5 ADR across all 3 maps, playing Chamber and Yoru.
VCT America's Stage 1 is ramping back up this upcoming weekend with their Week 2 matches. They already played their Week 1 matches this past weekend, so let's go ahead and take a look at what is in store for the Americas this upcoming weekend. This is a reminder for the Americas that the group stage will be taking place this past weekend all the way until the 20th of April, with playoffs starting off on the 24th of next month until the 4th of May. Everyone wants to be top 3 or just to make sure they step up enough to ensure that G2 Esports and Sentinels don't get another master stage ticket. Those are the 2 teams we will continue to take a focus on until other narratives continue to develop through this stage. So without further ado, let's start off with G2 Esports. They got a second at the most recent Masters in Bangkok and are a part of the Omega Group, and they are running it back with the same exact roster as they had gotten second with during the previous Masters event. They're currently 1-0 in the Omega Group following their Week 1 win versus Furia. G2 won 2-0, including a 13-10 win on Lotus and a 13-7 win on Ascent to win the Ultimate Series. G2 Esports will play again this Saturday, March 29th versus MIBR, who are also 1-0 in this group stage with a total win over Leviathan. Sentinels got top 8 at Masters Bangkok. They are running this stage back also with the same exact rosters that got that top 8 at that event. But placing so low, you'd imagine that they have to have a reason for sticking with it in these upcoming meta changes. Who could blame them, honestly? Zakin, John QT, and Zelsis are still from that same exact Masters Madrid team that took that chip back in 2024, after all. They are also in the other group of 6 teams residing in the Alpha group of the Americas. Sentinels are also 1-0 in their group. They had a 2-1 win versus a tough Week 1 opponent of 100 Thieves. 13-5 on Pearl, lost Haven 9-13, but they won split 13-1. Sentinels will be back in action this Friday, March 28th versus Crew Esports, who are also 1-0 in the Alpha group. Should be a great series and test in the current meta between the two.
This week, we'll see the start of VCT EMEA, as we said, but there are more matches in both EMEA and Americas we have to look forward to. On March 27th, we have PH versus APK, Boot versus Koi. On March 28th, we have Fnatic versus Navi and TL versus Gentlemates, which is a game we are all looking forward to. NRG versus Furia, and then again, Sentinels versus Crew. On March 29th, we'll have 100 Thieves versus EG and G2 versus MIBR. And then on March 30th, we'll have Loud versus 2 Game and C9 versus Leviathan.
And that's what we have this upcoming weekend for VCT Americas and EMEA. But that is not all that is happening. We also have matches happening in China and Pacific, so you want to make sure that you tune into all of our shows here on the Global Gaming Network channel as we go further in depth for all of those matches. And tune back in here for Today in Esports on Monday for all of our analysis and conclusion of this past weekend's worth of matches for Americas and EMEA. But without further ado, let's jump over to everybody's favorite segment of the week. It is time for the news roundup. Over to the board.
Welcome to the new segment where we take a look at everything else that is happening in the world of esports. We're going to start with some League of Legends news as Navi is potentially trying to acquire Rogue's LEC spot. We're going to take a look at it here. It says Navi is in advanced negotiations to acquire Rogue's LEC spot. The deal could happen to finalize soon. Of course, we have seen Navi in the past in League of Legends, so it'd be great to see them back again and what they do if they do acquire that spot.
In other news, Call of Duty's Major 2 in Allen, Texas has just concluded, and not only do you get the bragging rights, but obviously you do get a nice prize pooling along the way. With Atlanta FaZe taking the first place, they got $150,000 richer with 100 CDL points. Vancouver Surge, $90,000. $50,000 for Toronto Ultra, and then LA Thieves got $30,000 with their 45 CDL points. $15,000 for Cloud9 New York, Boston Breach as well, and then Optic Texas as well as Carolina Royal Ravens placing in top 8 got $7,500 and 15 CDL points as well. All very important, not just the money, but also CDL points when it comes down to the overall standings. Again, you want to be top 8 overall at the end of the road before Champs hits, so that way you can actually qualify for the final tournament of the year.
Taking a switch over to Halo, we do have HCS has announced the format and the prizes for HCC Dallas. So we'll take a look at some of that here. We do have 150K online for the 4v4. We do have a 5K prize pool for the free-for-all and 10K allotted to some side events. So again, remember the HCC Dallas will be kicking off. Let us know what you're excited for and how you view the event.
And then finally, over towards the Counter-Strike sphere of the world. Have we missed Stewie or have we missed Stewie? Stewie2K is expected to make his grand return tomorrow in the PGL Astana qualifiers, says the CS2 News. So you definitely want to be keeping an eye on for that. That's going on all of the different Twitch streams. If we got any eyes on any of these matches, we want to see how Stewie does perform. But that's all we got as far as the news is concerned. Let's bring it right back over to the desk.
Blast Spring Open group stages have concluded and we are moving into the playoffs today. So let's go ahead and take a look at the conclusion for those group stages and into the playoffs.
Group A is where we are going to be starting off, and Mal's versus Team Vitality will be the first series that we're going to be breaking down. And funnily enough, these are two very high-rated teams. Mal's is ranked overall 4th on the Valve World Ranking, while Team Vitality is ranked 2nd.
The last time these teams faced each other was during the ESL Pro League Season 21 Grand Finals. Vitality 3-0'd Mouse decisively. This was no more than a calendar month ago, so Mouse will have to show what they have learned since their shortcomings in Stockholm.
Mouse had the luxury of picking map 1. It would take place on Mirage, which is by far their most played map in the competitive rotation, and Mouse has a 60% win rate to boast to boot. The first half, Vitality would kick their counter-terrorist half off strong, with ZywOo winning the pistol round in a 1v2 clutch on the A site as Mouse was attempting to plant the bomb. Both teams would battle back and forth to secure a lead in the first half, but in the end, Mouse would be up 7 rounds to Vitality's 5. JimFat would have an amazing first half, 12 for 6, with half of their shots being headshots, and would be averaging 107 damage a round. Going into the second half, Vitality would be on the terrorist side, which is considered the stronger side of the map and, let's be candid, the game overall. They would once again start off strong by winning the pistol round and the following 2 rounds before Mouse would be able to get a round of their own post-side swap. Vitality would show why they were the second best team in the world by only dropping 4 rounds to Mouse in the second half. Using the strong terrorist side, Vitality would win map 1, 13-11, with ZywOo having a strong performance on the map, 20 for 14, with a 50% headshot ratio.
Vitality, now up 1 map, had the second map choice, and they would take us to Dust 2. Vitality had a great performance on this map recently, and they hold a 64% win rate on the map. Vitality would start on the terrorist side for the first half and wouldn't have the same hot start we saw on map 1 when Mouse won the first pistol round. However, we were proven wrong when they were able to answer back with a winning round 2 on Eco, and the following 3 rounds they built an early lead. Mouse fought back when they could in the first half and would tie the rounds up 6-6 going into the second half. Going into said second half, with Vitality now being on CT, they'd showcase their strongholds on each of the bomb sites. They would drop a few rounds in the beginning, sure, but once they got their economy online, they would start taking rounds away from Mouse one by one. They would end the half winning 7 rounds to 5. The final score of map 2 would be another 13-11 to secure Vitality's win in the series 2-0. This means Vitality has a bye in the playoff bracket starting in the semifinals. Mouse will have to play in the quarterfinals against one of the winning teams between G2 and the Mongols.
Staying in Group A, but over to the lower bracket finals. Spirit will be taking on VP. Spirit coming off of a 2-0 win versus FaZe, and Virtus Pro off their 2-1 win versus the Falcons, now pitted up against each other. Spirit would come into the series as the heavily favored team, but they also have struggled to win vital matches in tournaments recently, and a loss here would eliminate them from the tournament entirely. Virtus Pro would have the map 1 pick. The series would start on Ancient. Virtus Pro has a 56% win ratio on Ancient. All eyes were naturally on Donk from Team Spirit to see if he performed, as it's the only time when Spirit seems to win a series. And in the first half, performed he sure did. 13-4 on the counter-terrorist side, aiding Team Spirit with a 7-5 lead going into the second half. Virtus Pro would start the second half off strong by winning the first 2 rounds to tie the map up 7 rounds apiece. However, Donk, Magix, and Shiro were determined to make it into the playoffs and would push Team Spirit to victory. In round 21, Shiro would pull off a beautiful defense where he defended the B bomb site while getting 4 kills with the AWP. VP were left looking lost as they couldn't trade the AWP. Donk would have a 100% headshot ratio during the second half of this map number 1 while going 9 for 8. Magix went 10 for 4 while Shiro went 10 for 5 for a combined 20 and 9. That'll help. Map 1 ended 13-9, with Spirit winning and Donk and Co. putting on a performance.
Now, Spirit, with a 1-0 lead in the series, would look to have their map picked. They chose Anubis. Donk was on a mission in the second round of the first half. We see him ace Virtus Pro. The opening half had rounds being traded back and forth, where each team could streak 2 rounds in a row before giving one up. First half would end the tie 6-6. Donk would end the half with 14 kills and only 6 deaths, averaging 107 damage a round. His teammate Zonix had one great first half too. Zonix would have 11 kills and only 9 deaths while averaging 103 damage a round. Both teams were performing well, but something had to give in the second half. The first couple of rounds in the second half were a rough start for Spirit, but once they got their eco online, it was all but over. They would win 7 rounds, only dropping 1 in a dominating performance that Virtus Pro was just not able to defend against. Map number 2 ended 13-9 in a Spirit victory, with Zonix being the best player going 22-13, surpassing Donk, albeit by only 1 kill. This victory would secure Spirit's spot in the playoffs to face off against the winner of Eternal Fire and Na'Vi. Thus, the 3 teams qualified for Group A would be Team Vitality, Mouse, and Team Spirit. Virtus Pro, FaZe Clan, Team Falcons, Australis, and the Hunts Esports would all be sent home.
And that's all we have as far as Group A is concerned. Now let's shift our focus over towards Group B to see who the other 3 teams will be joining us in the single elimination bracket this upcoming weekend, and to also see who's going to be facing off against Team Spirit, with Eternal Fire facing off against Na'Vi to start. This is an upper finals match, and Eternal Fire currently holds the 7th place in the global ranking system, while Na'Vi is practically tied at 9th. Eternal Fire has been climbing the ranks, though, as they have continuously grown and become a team that can contend with some of the best. Eternal Fire would have their choice for Map 1, and EF would choose Inferno. EF has a 59% win rate on Inferno, so you know they feel confident in their repetitions. EF came in strong during the first half. They lost the pistol round to Na'Vi, sure, but they would quickly answer back. At the end of the first half, Eternal Fire would lead 7-5. Switching on over to the second half, Na'Vi would turn the game around with a very strong opening in the second half, where they would win 3 rounds straight. However, EF cracked the code of Na'Vi's aggression, as Eternal Fire would win the last 4 rounds required in a row to win Map 1 13-9. Wakadia had a fantastic Map 1, going 21-13 for the Map 1 win.
With this victory on map number 1, Eternal Fire would come into map number 2 knowing they could win this series either on Na'Vi's map pick or on the decider map number 3. Na'Vi chose Dust 2 as their map choice for the second venue in this best of 3. We would think Na'Vi would be able to pull out a great performance on this map, as they have a 60% win rate on it, but no. Eternal Fire had Na'Vi under lock and key in the first half. Eternal Fire would only drop 3 rounds to Na'Vi. Eternal Fire were able to read all of Na'Vi's plays like a book when they were able to breach Na'Vi's plant defense multiple times. Eternal Fire's JL got an ace in round number 5 with virtually no health, and even swapped to the Op to push and clear out Na'Vi. The first half would end with Eternal Fire leading 9-3 on CT. For a T-sided map, it wasn't looking good for Na'Vi. In the second half, Na'Vi would show some life, where they were able to win the first 2 rounds on CT, but again, Eternal Fire would show their improvements and win the next 4 rounds in a row to victory. They would win the map 13-5 in a decisive victory against Na'Vi. Arcadia popped off again during this map and was easily the player of the series, as he would get 42 kills and only drop 20 deaths with an average damage of 105. This would secure their bye in the playoffs, making Na'Vi to have to face Spirit in the quarterfinals.
Which then brings us over to Group B's lower bracket finals. This is going to be in between G2 Esports and the Mongols. Loser goes home, winner punches their ticket to the single elimination playoff bracket this upcoming weekend. Mongols would have the map 1 pick, and they take us to Ancient. This match was hyper competitive, and in the first half, the Mongols would start off strong. They would win the pistol round in the next 3 rounds after. G2 would finally be able to answer back with a site retake and appear to have woken up. They would win 6 rounds straight to end the first half 7-5. Heavy God and Monacy would have a great first half, carrying their team, combining for 23 kills out of the 44 total for their entire team. Going into the second half, G2 would win the first 4 rounds before the Mongols would be able to answer back with a single one. In round 20, Heavy God almost pulled off an insane ace against Mongols. During an eco pistol round, he would get 4 kills and almost get the 5th, but was shut down by Blitz. He was continuously popping off in the second half. Then in the final round of the game, he would win the map with a 1v2 clutch fight where he would defend the bomb site and get the 2 kills to secure the map victory for his team. Heavy God was undoubtedly the top player for map 1, where he would get 24 kills for his 14 deaths while boasting a 67% headshot ratio.
G2 was on fire after the first map, and they would look to bring that heat going into map number 2, which would take place on Dust. This is G2's pick, and they showed why they chose this map. The first half would see G2 have an almost impenetrable defense on CT, where they would only drop 3 rounds for the Mongols on a T-sided map. Obviously, MD would get a crazy ace when pushed up Cat with an M4A1 to clear out the Mongols. The first half of the game ended with G2 being up 9-3 and moving on to the T side. G2 would carry this momentum into the second half, where they were able to win the first 3 rounds in a row to put the game on match point. We would see Sinzu on the Mongols get an ace in round 26 to keep the Mongols in the match, but it was just not enough. G2 would win map number 2 13-2 in a dominating performance. Heavy God would be the player of the series, where he would get 36 kills and only 20 deaths with some insane plays during the series. This win would secure G2 in the playoffs to challenge Maus in the quarterfinals, and Mongols would be eliminated, but we will see them again soon.
And that's what we got this upcoming weekend. A single elimination playoff bracket. 2 teams get a first round bye, but everything is locked. So let's go ahead and take a look at those first round matchups. Starting off, we will have the quarterfinal matchup in between Na'Vi going up against Spirit. Spirit is the favorite in this series, but we've seen them choke again and again. So we'll have to see if they can finally break that curse.
We will also see Maus versus G2 Esports. Maus comes in strong and making it to the finals multiple times, but is G2 able to play at their peak? We'll have to see if they can, and if they do, maybe they can take down Maus. I'm really excited to see the rest of the matches play out this weekend for the Blast Open, and I'm excited to see what will conclude, but tell us a little more about it.
Yeah, again, as far as Blast is concerned, they've actually implemented something really cool. If you're unfamiliar, they're owning up to an entire token system. So if you make it to the single elimination bracket, congratulations, you already get one of those tokens. But if you win, you get 3. All these tokens for all the Blast Premier tournaments, they add up at the end of the road for a bigger purse. So more prize pool for the organizations should they continue to play in the Blast tournaments. So it does mean a lot, not only to make the single elimination bracket, but to also play in a lot of these Blast tournaments, not to mention first place also gets $150,000. That's a nice little purse if you ask me. But if we miss anything, let us know in the comments down below. Let's get engaged together as far as the conversation is concerned across all of our social media platforms, at any one of us on X or Instagram, wherever you may find us. We'd love to chat with you all. As always, stay safe out there. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you back on Monday. This has been Today in Esports.